Hi, this is Lok. Thank you for watching and subscribing to my channel. Today I'd like to talk to you about something really interesting that I found out recently from a friend of mine, actually two friends of mine, who told me about, because I shoot open in USPSA, and for open guns you can have a maximum magazine length of 170 millimeters. So I primarily use SV mags. You could use STI mags as well, and I shoot 9mm major, so SV mags work pretty well without having to have a spacer. If you use STI mags, you need to put some kind of spacer at the back there so that your bullets will feed correctly. But in this case, I use SV mags and they work well for me. And each of these SV mags, 170 millimeters, I can get a gauge here for you. This is how you probably measure the gauge. So it's the USPSA official gauge. This is 170 millimeters and this is 140 millimeters. So the way they measure is if you place your magazine on the gauge, all of the it should be able to fit well. So this is the gauge, and if you put the magazine on the gauge, it should sit well without having it to stick out like that, you know. So if you have a magazine that sits like this is not compliant. You need to be able to sit flush like that, right? So let me just show you across the board. Right, no gaps here and no gaps over here, right? So that means that's legal in USPSA. And this magazine, 170 millimeters, I'm using grams followers and a grams spring and a Boland's base pad. Or these days, I think Boland sold their design and rights to Terran Tactical, so you'll probably buy the same Terran Tactical base pads, but they do the same thing. And the combination of SB mags with the gram followers and springs and the Boland base pad will give you 29 rounds of 9mm ammunition. And that feeds reliably and it works perfectly. So what you do is you can load one round into your gun and then load up and top out 29 rounds for a total of 30 rounds. So for 30 round stages, you don't really have to reload if you don't want to. Now, most recently, I've heard from two friends of mine that there is a company called MBXExtreme. And this is, I believe, the owner of MBXExtreme. He's called Aaron Cobb. I saw his, he has a YouTube channel as well describing how to use his magazines. And I decided to buy one. And the reason why I wanted to go with this magazine versus SV, I have like 4 SV mags. But according to this company, his magazines, called the MBX magazine, they look exactly, they're based off the SV design, where you have like an impression over here in order to hold the 9mm rounds and allow it to feed correctly. If you try to use an STI magazine, which has a different kind of design, without the spacer, your rounds will start to rock and move within the magazine and you'll come apart, right? So this design is built off the SV design, and it's designed from the ground up together with a follower and together with a base, with their own base pad, which is a derivative of the Boland's base pad design. Instead of having the retention, what do you call this? Retention piece, nut, whatever. In the middle is off to the side, and not only that, this base pad is designed so that it can be used in 170mm magazine tube or 140mm. So it's basically a universal design. Now, what's really interesting too, with a combination of a follower, you can actually get 30 rounds reloadable instead of 29. So that intrigued me, because then I can actually have a total of 31 rounds in my gun for, you know, maybe 30 round stages that require 30 round stage, and that will give me 1 extra round just in case I have to take an extra shot. But if you talk to anybody who shoots open, if you go to any forums in USPSA, especially Brian Enos, there's always a quest to get more rounds in the magazine. If you can get 31 in the magazine, plus 1 means 32. And there are a lot of people who try and figure out interesting designs, you know, how they can tune the magazine, tune the followers and the springs just to get 1 additional round. And it's fairly expensive when you go the tune route. Aaron in MBX Extreme sells this for about $170, which is about what I pay for the SV magazine. The SV tubes are pretty expensive, and then the followers in the spring is about $30 over, and this is about another $30. So the total is almost the same price as what he sells for this, but he says that you are able to get 30 rounds in this magazine. And I just got this in the mail, so I wanted to share with you how it looks like. Interesting follower, mag tube, and well, the follower, what's really interesting is it's actually 3D printed. I don't know if you can see the light. Oh, I don't have any light source. Here we go. It's actually 3D printed, much to my chagrin, because I do a lot of 3D printing as well. I have a 3D printer, and I don't know about the rigidity of the follower versus a molded part. It might break. It just looks cheap, I think. Right? Look at that. Look at all the ridges that you can see. I don't know how well it works. I haven't used this. I haven't shot it. I have a match coming this Sunday. In the next few days, I will try it, and then I'll report back and let you know how well it works. And also, if you look at MBX Engineering's website, he has a series of videos that show you how to load a 170mm magazine. So as you load and put ammunition, I would use I think like a ablula, right? So you put it up here, you just press it down, and you load the next round and keep pressing it down. And he has a method where, in order to get the ammo to stack correctly, especially the ones at the bottom, close to the bottom, he will actually put the ablula and start pressing down on all the rounds and shaking it so that the rounds will settle, and then that will allow you to fit one more round in it. We will see, right? I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to try and load up 30 rounds in this magazine. I actually tried earlier when I got this, and tried to put in 30 rounds, and I couldn't. I could only fit 29, so we will see. Maybe the spring is too tight. Maybe the spring needs some relief a little bit, and put some rounds in, let it settle down, and let the spring settle down, and get it worked up a little bit so you can fit 30 rounds. So let's give it a try and see what happens. Alright, so here you go. Let's try and load this magazine up to 30 rounds. I have a lot of dummy rounds here that are reloaded. These are all Montana Gold bullets without any primers in them. I use this for dry fire. And let's give it a go and see how many rounds we can fit in this. I'm going to use this so I don't bust my fingers. Oh, it's pretty hard though. Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to stop right here and start doing what he suggested, which is to, press it down like that and let the round settle. Okay. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then I'll do that. Okay, so 20 rounds in here. Let's keep going. 21, 22 is getting a little bit hard. 23, 24, that's hard. 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay, it's getting really hard now. I can imagine if you use a thumb, it's going to be pretty hard to press down. 29, that's the limit of my normal magazines. Let's see. Oh wow. And can't fit it in. Can't go in. Let's knock it a little bit. Let's settle the spring down. Oh, okay. 30 rounds. Wow. It's a little bit tight. I can't even press the rounds now. I doubt this is reloadable. I don't think you would. It's definitely not recommended if you're going to reload into 30 rounds, because then it's not going to be able to fit in here. See, even if I it's going to come out. It's not going to be. And then the only way you can seat it in is if you, oh god, oh wow, that was hard. I can't imagine the stress that it's putting on the mag button right now, because it was really hard for me to shove it in. And it's well known that if you make something that difficult, it might cause a crack in your frame, which is something that you really don't want to do. So I don't know how well you would probably use this 30 round magazine. I mean, it's just one extra round. If there was a 31 round stage, then you could probably, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna try and load by putting the magazine back. Okay, that's easier to sit now because it doesn't have the slide on the way. Okay, load one round. So that's one in the chamber. I can't even press this down. Oh my gosh. Sort of fits, right? So now I'm gonna put in my gun. No. Oh, I don't think that's good. I mean, it's putting a lot of stress on my mag release right now. Let's see if it will cycle the gun anyway. So if you imagine if you fire a gun, okay, that worked. That worked. Okay. Well, there you go. 31 rounds. Functions pretty well. I don't know how it functions in actual live fire, but you know, just trying it here, it works. It also comes with a 30 round I don't know what you call this, window here that you can see, and if your rounds actually reach here, you know that you have 30 rounds loaded in the gun. Well, it's nice to know that you can load 31 rounds in your gun. I don't know if I will do it because my SV magazines has 29 rounds. With one in the chamber, I still get 30 rounds. And that sounds like a more even number. Versus 31 rounds, I don't think I've ever seen a stage that requires 31 rounds. Usually it's 30 or 32 or 28. And 32 is the maximum round count for most stages anyway in USPSA. Especially the sanction matches. But more often than not, you can actually find some place in a stage to reload your magazine. So even if you have 28 rounds and you require 4 more rounds, I'm sure there is a space that you can reload your gun to another magazine, right? And doing that will probably eat up some time, but hopefully, you know, you practice your reloads. And you do it at a spot where you're actually moving, so the impact of having to reload, the time impact is not that great. You know, I think the net benefit of having to reload again on a move versus not having to reload, maybe half a second, 1 second tops, right, difference. Although 1 second makes a huge difference in open, but I've not seen a reason to actually stress your frame and having to deal with the unreliability of having to reload 31 rounds in a gun and the stress you have put on your gun, especially the frame, which costs like $150, I think. It might break after a few times you use this. I mean, I cracked one of my frames before, a grip before. As you can see here, you can see a hairline fracture. Right there, right at the top of the circle. You can see that. That's because I remember at one time I was just reloading 29 plus 1 all the time. Even if the stages only require 26 rounds or 22 rounds, I'll just make it a point to load it to 29 plus 1, which stresses the grip. And eventually it cracked. And I don't want to do it anymore. So most of my rounds is 28. I load 28 in here, plus 1, 29. No stress on the frame at all. Perfect fit. and then I'll find some occasion to reload. I only have to use 29 plus 1, maybe one stage every few months in a local match. There's always one super fast, high-speed hosing stage that requires exactly 30 rounds, and I do it then, right? There's no steel involved, so you don't have to make up shot. You don't have to use the makeup shot, and I've basically won stages like that before, so I see the benefit. But getting up to 31 instead of 32, I mean, if this was 31 rounds plus 1 to make it 32, it makes a hell of a lot more sense, right? So, but I don't know. I'll try it again, as I said. I'll try it on Sunday, one time and one stage to see if it's reliable or not. Otherwise, I might just load it to 29 rounds instead of 30. I don't know. Maybe I'll just designate this as the 31 round magazine. So if there was a stage that requires 31 rounds, I will probably end up using this magazine to see what happens, right? Apart from that, I'll just use my normal SV magazines, which work well for me, and reload, right, if you have to. All right, so thanks everybody for watching. I hope you learned something. Again, the company is called MBXExtreme. Here we go, MBXExtreme.com. 170 millimeter. They have 140. I don't think they have 126, but I could be wrong. And this they have for 9 and 40, and you can buy magazines for limited division as well. Looks pretty well constructed. I mean, I like the idea that he built this magazine from the ground up for 170 millimeter, right? And he built and he made a decision to make the base pads compatible regardless of tube length, right? So this same base pad, if you buy a 140 millimeter magazine from MBX, you have the same base pad, right? So interchangeable. The only difference is the spring length, and the followers I believe are the same thing as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, every time I look at 3D printed parts, I'm just like a little bit wary. Because they tend to crack, they tend to unravel, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a follower. It might be, might work pretty well. Yeah, look at that. I mean, maybe functional wise it works, but from a look and feel, it just looks cheap, right? Looks like you prototype this at home and you're selling this $170 product from your garage, you know. I don't know. I mean, hopefully one day his business will be big enough so that he can actually make molded parts instead of 3D printed parts. I can imagine this 3D printed part costs some money to print, and it's better to go down the molded part, but that requires quantity anyway. So again, thanks for watching. If you like more videos of this kind of stuff, hit subscribe. Button is down here, and then you want to watch for some other videos, you can click the button down here as well. So hopefully I can come back, go and shoot a match this Sunday with this magazine and give you some video of me shooting it, right? So have a good time. Bye.